Howdy, y'all. This is A.R. Kavli. Welcome back to my channel and the further adventures of Russell Miranda, Gunslinger. So this is episode 10. I'm thinking it's about time that Russell comes across some kind of path to some kind of further encounter with the Ghost Riders of Tahira that he's actually looking for. I've been thinking about that. And I think I know how that's going to happen, depending on how his encounter with Auntie Marge goes. So as Russell and Eldunak ride away from the village, Russell takes a quick look over his shoulder and he sees that the surviving villagers, are taking the bodies of the slain vampires. There are some who are starting to stoke a fire, and Marcalo is taking his large axe and cleaving heads from bodies. So chances are, as they go riding off into the forest, into the darkening forest, that Auntie Marge probably going to beat them there, whether she's doing vampire anime runs through the forest or whether she can actually fly. Um, who knows? They don't know, so I guess I don't really need to know. But I'm going to say that the chances are she's going to beat them there. As Russell is riding, being careful as they're racing through the woods, trying to think about what kind of craziness awaits him in that ancient bunker that he first encountered the vampiress. He's trying to decide what will work best. And so what he's going to do is probably what's always worked best for him so far. Basically rush in and start blasting. I'm going to give them only a 5 or a 6 if they get there first, though. Okay. So she has fled back there and probably awaiting him. So they ride through the forest. Eldenak takes the lead and he guides them as they're riding, going through twists and turns in the night. Eldenak seems to be able to know the place or know the way to the place without even having to stop and think about it or even look for landmarks. Russell, as he watches the tribesmen, realizes that he can probably do this because this woman, this haunted place, the palace of this woman who has caused them so much misery and bloodshed, is almost it's a monument to them. It's that haunted house that you never walk by alone. So everyone knows where it's at, especially him as one of the village hunters. So riding through, let's see, it is dark. I'm gonna say he's gonna roll a uh, riding riding check to see if he can to keep going. Just standard difficulty, or at least go without incident. Oh, excellent. All right, double 5. So he manages to keep up with Eldenak, gracefully steering Ensign back and forth through the trees, through the darkening forest. And soon Eldenak comes up short and ties his pony off to a low hanging branch, and Russell does the same. It's just over the next rise. Quiet now. We don't know where she's at. Russell nods, he draws his pistol, his big iron in one hand, and the old the old rusted flintlock with the sigil of the knight on it in the other hand. And they go forth. So let's see what kind of scene are we going to get as they confront, as they approach, as they creep over. You can see where the same place he remembers it, although it's darker, and so it's more full of shadows, more ominous, but almost as if it wants them to come in, as if it's luring them in. He feels like he feels Auntie Marge's eyes on them from somewhere. Standard Agile Challenge. All right, so I think the first test they're going to is just to see if they can sneak up. Standard Agile Challenge. And even though he feels that she already sees them, that she already knows, he wants to make sure that he can get as close as he can without giving away his exact position. Okay. He manages to move through relatively quiet, nowhere near as quiet as Eldenak, but it's dark and it's hard for him to not rustle some of the undergrowth. Anyone who has tried to move quietly through actual woods with undergrowth knows that that's kind of it's a very difficult thing to do. But he knows that she's watching them from somewhere. They approach the bunker, the mouth of the bunker, and Russell pulls Eldenak in close, and he says, "You don't need to be here." He whispers, of course, "You don't need to be here. Your village needs you. This vow is for me as a gunslinger." And Eldenak just simply shakes his head and pulls out a long knife, and he just jabs it towards the entrance to motion them to go on. Russell nods and leads the way. All right, so on a 5 or a 6, she's actually inside already. She knows they're coming. They failed anyway, but on a 5 or 6, she's inside. Otherwise, there's something more devious, maybe. Okay. So Russell holds the pistol, the ancient pistol in front of him as a talisman, as he slowly steps down the entranceway, his boots tapping against the ancient metal and stone stairs. And he comes around the corner, and the place is still illuminated by a few of these ancient electronics, little lights, LEDs, just enough as he gives his eyes a few moments to adjust that he can see pretty decent. And as he scans around, of course, keeping his pistol in front, he doesn't see anything. And that's when she comes from behind. I'm going to use this next scene to just kind of give an idea, okay, what's going to happen. Advance secondary subplot positive. Okay. So as he walks in, and that actually plays into what I was kind of imagining moving to the next phase of the story, bringing the Ghost Riders back in. He walks in, as he's scanning, he notices that there is a door, and the door is humming. It's humming, and the buzz coming from it almost sounds like it's trying to say something to him, to talk to him. And he's going, and he's almost hypnotically reaching for the door. He's getting close to try to listen, see if he can see anything from beyond. Or not see, but hear something behind it besides the strange droning. And so we've interpreted that. Let's see what's next. A Joker. I tell you. All right, so it's a scene change. One. All right, so it's a scene change, positive for you. I'm going to say that somehow that's going to tie back into the door. All right, so that's going to tie back into the door, and I think the door then is going to be helpful. All right, I'll be honest. I'm not overly impressed with the shuffling of the D20. I shuffled this thing like 4 times. All right. An easy crafty challenge. All right, so as he is listening to the door getting close, he feels his mind kind of almost going to sleep. Like I said, it has a hypnotic sound to it. And then the door is flung open, and there's Auntie Marge. And she shrieks, and he rolls out of the way, trying to hold up the sigil, calling on the name of the Eld. He himself is almost screamed from the jump scare from behind this strange door. And I'm just gonna give a general. The scene itself is easy crafty. What does she do about Eldunak? The higher, the worse for Eldunak. Okay, so she leaps out as the gunslinger steps back out of the way, raising both his pistols ready for action. She flies past him and backhands Eldunak, sending him flying against a bank of old servers, which of course they don't know what they are, but of old world equipment. And Eldunak lets out a groan and falls unconscious to the ground. And Russell, remembering, trying to summon that feeling again that he did earlier when these things, when the sigil lit and fried the other vampires. He holds a pistol aloft. He says, "In the name of the Eld, I command you to go. I command you back into the earth, you scum, you fiend, you filth." And let's see, she doesn't. Let's see what she thinks about this. So this is gonna be, say, easy, crafty. We'll see how she thinks about that. Oh. So at first she cowers back, and Russell presses forward, but he notices suddenly that it's not it's not glowing. It's not There's no power. He doesn't feel anything as he holds it forward. And then she her look of terror turns into a mocking look of terror, and she said, "Oh no." And then she starts cackling, and as she stands up straight, sneering, exposing one of her fangs, Russell feels his balls crawl up into the side of his stomach, and the shiver he's feeling now is not power from the line of Eld. She looks at it. She looks at him and she shakes her head. "I give you full marks for cleverness and bravery, Gunslinger." Her voice is sultry. She's dressed in uh, a low cut gown, very old, but still in good shape, very seductive, showing off a lot of shoulder, showing off cleavage, and she steps around, keeping her distance for now, and gives him a wink. "But my husband carries no fear for me. I cuckolded him with every one of his gunslinger friends, with every one in his quartet. One by one I slipped into their chambers and stole their love. Even his din, even his commander had his way with me. No, my husband Sigurd does not scare me, for I know how weak he is. I know how weak the blood of the Eld is. My blood has the power, Gunslinger." Russell wants to pull the trigger on his gun, but a feeling of red lust is washing over him as he watches her, terrified and yet enamored. She obviously is an old hand at this game. She moves so seductively, so gracefully, showing just enough of a smile, just enough of hinting in her eyes. Her voice, sultry, is reaching into his mind. She begins to offer him promises of what she can do for him and to him. "I can show you things, arts that were lost in the time of Eld. Those things that I showed those weak men. They thought they were taking me, but really I was taking them, Gunslinger. You can take me too. Come." And he knows there is deep down inside, he knows what's happening. He can feel her taking him over. He can feel that he wants to, and he doesn't care. He knows his part of his mind is screaming that she is a blood-sucking, murdering monster. And yet her honeyed words, her beauty, and whatever sort of ensorcelment she has is working on him. So I think this first round we're gonna make it a we're gonna maintain crafty as he's trying to keep control of himself, as he's trying to overcome her seductions. Okay, so you know what? I think that really threw him for a loop. And Auntie Marge, is one of those hot vampires. S's. Can he reach down and resist? Well, almost, but no, not even close. Oops. So he's going to lose one resolve as he literally is losing his resolve to resist. She steps forward and she gives him a coy schoolgirl's laugh as she reaches out and strokes his cheek, and he's still unable to do anything. And she nuzzles close, and he can feel his arousal starting to wash him away. Once again, he tries because he knows that she is going to destroy him when she's done. And yet there's that voice inside that says, what a way to go. So another resolve, or another crafty test. This time I'll give him a 5 because he is trying to struggle. Okay, so he manages to shake free, at least in part, from her wiles, but he still can't bring his gun up yet, but he pushes her away, but acting more like a scorned lover than an enemy, acting more like that than a warrior who's facing a deadly opponent. No. If he knew, my husband knew, but he didn't have the strength. If he did have the strength to have done something about me, about my adventures with his friends, I wouldn't be here today. It's a deep magic, a dark magic, Gunslinger, that has turned me into the goddess that I am. Did you imagine you were the first ranging, fiery gunslinger to seek Auntie Marge's death? No. Nor will you be the last, as long as those fools on the hill, imagining to be great lords and great knights of Eld, as long as they stay up there having their parties, every now and then some young, foolish pup rides this way, seeking glory and fame. Instead, they find themselves wrapped up in my deadly embrace, as I pleasure myself and drink their soul, Gunslinger. And she steps behind him, starts tracing her fingers seductively over his shoulders. Don't you want me, Gunslinger? I want you. And he does manage to, at this point, now that she's behind him, he's freaked out. He's still not completely in control of himself, but he reaches down and he no longer is concerned about the ancient pistol. Although he hasn't given up faith in it completely, it certainly didn't do anything to her. So he manages to swing his pistol around, and he turns and gets it up under her neck. Let's see. He's not in control, so I'm going to give that a 6. I'm going to make that, it's going to be kind of difficult. He's not in his right senses. Ah. Um. Okay, I think he's going to use a karma point to invoke his big irons. So he's going to not he's not so much in the sense of their power mechanically as being huge guns, but as being of the line of Eld. Even if this uh, particular Segul did not work against this ancient vampire, his pistols, his big irons, are of the line of Eld, and it gives him just enough to overcome her seductions for a moment. And he brings the pistol around. Let's see. I'm going to make her. It's time to I think give her some effort tokens. And she's pretty powerful, so I think we're gonna give her 3. All by her lonesome. And I think she's worthy of a token. Let me go find a token for her. All right, so that's the token I have for her instead of going to go find some kind of vampirella or something like that. It's a good reminder of what she really is despite her beauty. She is a monster. And he manages to get the gun up, but she moves, and before he can fire, she has to move. That's going to be the her loss of resolve, is that uh, she has to react to his overcoming um, her spell a little bit, and she steps aside, and she gently, almost like a lover. Every move she makes is slow, deliberate, purposeful, seductive. She's in command, she's in control, and she knows it. She gently pushes his pistol aside further. Why don't you put that away? Well, he doesn't want to put it away, so he's going to reach into the depths, try to remember the face of his father, and shake her voice out of his head. And that's not going to do it. So he does. Her words make their way deep into his mind, and he's going to lose resolve as she continues to assert her control over him. He sets his hand slowly, almost of its own accord, puts his pistol, holsters his pistol, and she walks back around in front of him and tears his shirt open, sticks her hand in his shirt, gives his nipple a painful pinch. Don't you think these clothes are getting in the way, Gunslinger? And he dumbly nods, and he helps. He moves his shoulders as she starts to slide his duster off. Once his duster has hit the ground, she continues ripping his shirt. Lust is still overriding him, and he reaches down. And look at that, 5. He makes one more attempt to overcome her. Exceptional success. So he
he focuses on what a monster she is, on the lives that she's ruined, on the murders, on the Marcalo's village, and the bloodshed she has committed there. But what really shakes him free, even if just for a second, is the thought of her betrayal of her husband, her betrayal, her sowing corruption within the ranks of the gunslingers as they fight to protect Gilead and the White. And it's enough. He shakes free, but now she's nuzzling against him, rubbing him, kissing his neck, and he knows he has to play along until he gets the right moment, until he is not immediately going to get his throat ripped out. So he plays along, he caresses, and then as she presses him, leads him towards the little table that's in the center of the room, she grabs her by the arms, and he's going to throw her bodily against the wall and go for his guns. All right, this is uh-oh. As he grabs her, and as he spins to throw her against the wall, she laughs, and instead she grabs him by the arms and throws him against the wall, stunning him. He staggers and he tries to get back into the phrase, desperately reaching for his knife, but she bares her teeth and leaps at him. Can he get away? Can he defend himself? Let's see. Oh my word. That's a very bad roll. So she slams him against the wall. He slides down and he feels the last of his resistance to her manipulations fading away. And she's on him, biting into him, slashing him, shredding his pants, shredding his shirt, having her way with him bodily, spiritually, telling him dark secrets of his heroes, mocking his worship of Eld as she has her way with him. He loses track of time. He loses track of himself. Things go blank, which is a blessed relief from the pain and the pleasure that she's inflicting on him. He doesn't know how long he's out before he awakens.
As he starts to slowly come about, starts to slowly gather his senses, he takes stock of himself and finds that he's laying curled naked on the floor, his skin covered in bite marks and claw marks, the floor slick with blood and other bodily fluids. And he glances up and he sees Auntie Marge. And there's still a part of him that wants her, that lusts after her, but she's sneering down at him. Don't worry, Gunslinger. Your time will soon be over. You will be in the clearing at the end of the path, like so many other. I must admit, Gunslinger, that I've missed the taste of the blood of Eld, having had to satisfy myself with these backward savages these many years. And as she leans down, obvious murder in her eyes, Russell can still barely move. His jacket and his gun belt are nearby, but he can barely move. He struggles to get there. And she laughs. Oh, Gunslinger, it's too late for that. Now it's time. And then she lets out a shriek as her head flies forward and her tangled hair flies up. And she turns around, and there is Eldunak, who has just hurled a large stone and hit her in the back of the skull. She screeches and leaps at Eldunak, and they are now fighting. Eldunak making a pretty good defense for himself as he is slashing at her and stabbing and wrestling, but she's still too powerful, and she has just fed. But Russell can't help. He can't help. He can barely get to his gun belt in his jacket. And as he reaches, he can barely get a grip on the pistol, on the heavy pistols, to get out of the holster. And he looks around desperately, and he sees that the door is still open, the door that she had leapt through. It's not humming like it was when it was shut. But that's his only option. He knows that if he doesn't get away, he's going to die. So he puts an arm through his belt that has the two guns and a few remaining bullets and his knife on it. And he tries to grab his jacket. And he pulls himself to the door. Let's see. Can he grab his jacket? He's pretty weak. He definitely is going to hook the belt through. I'm going to say that's difficult because he is so in bad shape. You know what? I think he'll spend his last caw to work to give himself the strength to grab his duster and the satchel that's on top of his small satchel, and he rolls through the door. And as she has Eldunak up against the wall, his knife is shattered on the ground between her feet, and he's struggling. His feet are kicking as his eyes are bulging, and his tongue starting to loll out as she's crushing his throat. She glances over her shoulder and notices that Russell has pulled himself most of the way through the door. And her eyes flash red, and she's, no, get out of there. She stops playing with Eldunak and rips through his throat, sending blood splattering all over the floor and the wall. Eldunak gasps and gurgles and falls dead, and she leaps to the door, and Russell is barely able to kick the door shut. And as it latches, the humming fills his ears like a million angry wasps, and he holds his hands to his ears and he screams. And sometime later, as he's trying to drive back the pain, the sound of those million screaming wasps, he falls to the ground and he feels himself hit earth. And he looks around at a strange land where the sun is starting to rise, and he has no idea where he's at. He's naked. He has 2 pistols and a knife, and he has his jacket and the small satchel. And then he collapses onto the ground. Well, he was already on the ground. He collapses back to the ground from where he was trying to sit up. And we'll leave it right there. Okay, I'll be honest, I was kind of hoping that that Sigul would work pretty well against her, um, against Auntie Marge, but nope. It wasn't his faith that failed, like Father Callahan in the Salem's Lot, Stephen King's Father Callahan. But she was not. That particular Sigul apparently did not bother her. Anyway, we will see what happens next week on the further adventures of Russel Miranda. Thanks for watching.